Hello, this evening we're going to do some more of our English practices. Today is Saturday, so I just remembered that I have to do my English practice. For my Filipino practice, I need to do a practice because it's Saturday. I think I'm doing the English practice right now because I don't have a new set of Philnet's question and answer with explanation video yet. So I'm gonna do a practice session for the English language. I know that there are people who maybe are looking forward to the PhilNet's exam question and answer explanation, or maybe not. But I think in my case, I still definitely need to practice speaking and explaining. And I know that if I don't do it, I'll end up having all these ideas in my head, and if I don't say these things out loud, they'll just remain there. And also, similar to what we found out when I didn't speak English as much, I could have this set of things that uh, I want to say, but because I got used to writing, I got used to reading stuff. When I actually have to speak out loud these things, it really took me a long time to remember the words and to explain very well. And I think it took me several months to get back to the speed where I think I can remember the words much faster. And that's why I recommend people to do their practices, especially, for example, I know that in other places there are many people, especially, for example, I know that a lot of the immigrants to the United States, they eventually bring their parents to the US because it's like their parents want to experience life in the US. But what they find out is that they don't have anyone to talk to. Or maybe they find someone, but the way they speak is not really quite like how the people there speak. So what they end up doing is they'll just stay at home. And maybe if their children have kids, then they'll be the babysitter. And then they realize, I don't want this. I don't want to be a babysitter because I've done this years and years ago for my own children who don't have time anymore for me, even though they were able to bring me to the US. And so I'm stuck here, and I guess I'll just end up watching TV shows that are broadcasted here in the US, even though I know that in the Philippines, I could also watch those things there with a lot more people accompanying me. For example, any of my friends, and so they get into this problem, and eventually, what they want is to return back to the Philippines, and then it's a lot of hassle, a lot of time consuming problems for their own children because we just got you here. We're doing this paperwork so that you can live with us here. Maybe kind of like a resident, one of those resident visas or something like that. And then we hear something about, no, we want to go back to the Philippines and all that stuff, right? Actually, it's not only in the US that this occurs, it happens in other places like Australia. It happens in other places where they don't have anyone to talk to communicate to, because it's like you grew up in this place and you speak in a certain way. Maybe you understand English, but when you move there, in Australia, in the US, the way you speak is really different from the way people there would speak, and you know that it's difficult to trust just anybody, because in a place where the system is really based on who has a lot of money and who has none. Just look at the education system. If you don't have money, how are you going to send your children to one of those top private schools? And if they can't enter private schools, they have to stay in some kind of public school. They usually end up not doing very well. And so people get the idea right away that if you don't have money, there's no way for you to go up the social ladder, and that's why a lot of the workers, especially immigrants, I think with Asian origin, they they tend to work so hard so that their child could go to Harvard University. And usually, I think from what we hear, these are parents who maybe worked at a restaurant and now have their own restaurant, and then they just work so hard just to get the child to go to Harvard. It's the usual kind of like story we typically hear, and I think it's a good kind of letter entrance exam, part of the entrance exam requirements. You have to write a letter why you want to go to Harvard. Maybe you just say that after all these years, I realized that my parents worked so hard to get me to Harvard because they knew the value of education. Blah 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 blah. It's like that. Of course, it doesn't amount to anything if your grades also don't count. I mean, usually they also have to look at your SAT and whatever grades that you have accumulated, and so the letters, the write-ups, I think just add also some kind of flavor to who you are. And I remember reading all these things because I got some of the discounted books at book sale where we see all these students writing letters to all these top universities and eventually say which university got into. And you'll have a lot of these cases where I think they want to show that they were maybe class president, that they were part of this varsity team in high school, blah 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 blah. And of course, there's also the part there with their GPA, their grades, how good they were in school, a straight A student, and of course they have to show the SAT score that they are able to get. I think so. That's how they show you that to get into a top university, first you need money. Then you also need this proactive kind of attitude. We say need money because if you're stuck in this economic financial dilemma where you can't really join any of the varsity groups, varsity teams. You can't be the class president because you're always thinking about money because you don't have any food to eat or something like that, then it's unlikely that you will be able to get to the top university that you're aiming for. Okay? Alright, so I think that should be enough for now. We're over 5 minutes already. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see each other soon.